religious rituals, let's say the Catholic Mass.
So because of that, the religious behavior can appear arbitrary, superstitious, ridiculous.
That is the dismissal of it. It's arbitrary. And arbitrary is a key word here, because now as modernity recedes, what this little corner, Jordan Peterson, Jonathan Pageau, John Vervaeke have all sort of forced us to recognize, and I think this is a big part of sort of Peterson's breaking into, was that all of what had sort of been dismissed as arbitrary, this religious stuff, not so arbitrary. Tom Holland's work, same thing, not so arbitrary. And of course, Jonathan Pageau's work has been, not arbitrary. The patterns are not arbitrary.
Sometimes also people want to reduce religion to a set of things that you believe, rather than understanding it as a coherent set of behaviors and beliefs that kind of go together.
Religion goes beyond propositional, and that's where religion is, our ritual is much more part of the other three P's. It's procedural, it's participatory, it's perspectival. See, I got them all. It's all of those right there, and in that way, religion is in some ways deeper than just the propositional, but the propositional is itself vitally important and useful, and that's why propositional isn't going away.
I found that the best way to understand religion from a secularist perspective, or even from a purely materialist perspective, is to see it as an extension of other types of behaviors, and even, I would say, as an extension or similar in nature to some behaviors that animals have. And so
now this is a gutsy move on Jonathan's part, because certain people get real touchy with respect to that.
One of the things that I've noticed is that looking at the way that animals ritualize behavior is actually a good way for humans to understand why it is that we ritualize behavior and what it is that ritualizing behavior can do. And so the first thing to understand is that actually all behavior is ritualized. That is, anything which is moving towards a goal has to be ordered. And so if you don't like the word behavior, let's just use the word ordered. So ordered behavior will happen as you move towards a goal. So
now this stuff is super helpful, what he lays out here. This is so deep in us.
So if you have a purpose, the things you do, you'll probably experiment a little bit at the outset, but at some point you'll realize that, if I want to get to the river, this is the best way to go. At first, maybe I'll zigzag, I'll do this, but then a trail will set itself up in the forest to go to the river. And then that behavior, going from the village to the river, for example, will become ritualized in the sense that it will become ordered and will have kind of reduced itself to its best line, you could say, to get to the river. And so
now, and remember, he begins sort of saying this line between religion and not religion in the secular worldview is not what you think it is. We would look at the Greeks and see their temples and see their sacrifices and see their stories of the gods. And we would look at the Greeks and just about everybody in the ancient world and say they're highly religious. And in some ways they would say, religion, what's that? We make sacrifices to the gods, we follow these sacred paths, we do these things, we eat this way, we do all of these things because this brings us favor from the gods, and then we find success. And this is where you get into, let's say, God number one, where this is just the Arenic God, and these are the rules of how things work. And so if you do these things, you will prosper. And it's sort of an open arena, and once the rules are discovered, if you do these things, it will go well. And technology is within this too. And so the line between technology and ritual is not very far.
So this is something which happens in all types of behaviors, whether it is, the way to hunt or the way to prepare food. All of these will become ordered, not like 100% order, but there'll always be a little aspect of variability on the margins, but the behavior will become ordered. And so you
can see this in music. Artists know this, and we also know this in terms of even the propositional teachers of one another. You always pick up something from your teacher.
You know, it's like if I could get to the river by going all around and going in circles and doing all this, and then I get to the river, and it's like, okay, but that's very costly. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. And so what I'll do is that I'll start to order my behavior in order to reduce the cost that it has, you know, in terms of energy, in terms of time, and all of that, and in terms of consequences, you could say. And
now, and when you look at the beaten path from the village to the river, in many ways, that beaten path is an artifact of the ritual of going from the village to the river.
And so you can imagine that this is something that happens even in animal ritual behaviors.
If we look at the Enlightenment critique and say these rituals are arbitrary, a lot of the work done in this little corner has been, no, they're not arbitrary at all. And you can understand them from the bottom up. Again, that's been Jordan Peterson's big contribution, because Jordan Peterson makes these things accessible from the bottom up. And that's why he's so effective among people who don't believe that there's a top, and maybe works from the bottom up until they believe there's a top, and then they keep going. And then there's that little video by Destiny. Did he really change his name to that? I don't know.
Inevitably started realizing that the more you ritualize it, and let's say the higher you aim, the more it binds reality together. If I pay taxes to the king, then it binds us together as a society. But if I pay taxes to a higher level, if I take my things and I bring and I give it up to a higher level, then it basically binds me up higher and higher. And you can imagine, you can see how people realize that at some point that kind of moves up and up towards more and more meaning until we reach something like the infinite source of all things, right? The infinite source, which is the God that is being and non-being, the God that is love, which binds the universe together. All of these infinite qualities, which end up binding everything together.
One of the things that the military does is it ritualizes all the way down, and this ritual is going to keep you alive. This is how you clean your weapon. This is how you... And technology is full of rituals. They're full of checklists, and it's all of these nested rituals. But Jonathan's example is great.
You can imagine that even in the world of martial arts, that will happen, where certain behaviors are there to manifest, let's say a kind of, imagine like a knight's, the way that the knights had certain ethics about fighting. It's like the gentlemanly way of fighting, right? You don't hit someone in the back, you look at them in the face. All of these types of behaviors are there to avoid the massive cost of fighting and push it towards more meaning, but still keeping within the arena of beating your opponent.
MMA is within an arena. And if you kill your opponent, not only are you no longer going to be able to fight and earn money and fame and glory and all of the things that status affords you as a male, you'll also probably lose your freedom, and you'll destroy the arena of MMA. So that's how ritual is tied to the arena. And the purpose of the ritual is to participate in the arena in an effective way. And that effective way both molds us and changes the world.
Hopefully this is helpful to kind of help you understand a little bit.
Jonathan, you're always helpful.